Let's try this again. This is Catherine Muffin for site 829, and I'm interviewing my grandpa. Grandpa, what is your full name?
Stanley Prusinski.
Is there anything special or unusual about your name or the way you were named?
Well, my name should be P-R-U-S-Z-Y-N-S-K-I, but it was changed when my father got his citizen papers. They decided to shorten his name.
And when and where were you born?
Du Bois, Pennsylvania.
And when was that?
May 5th, 1915.
That makes you 79, right?
Right.
Okay, do you have any brothers or sisters?
Well, living, I have one brother and two sisters living.
And what are their names and ages?
John is my oldest brother. Well, my older brother. He's 83. And Josephine is about 72. And Helen, I think, is 68.
And then the ones that passed away, who were they?
Well, let's see, Carl, he was born in 1908. And let's see, Stella was born in 1918. And Leo was born in 1918. And Stella, I don't remember what year she was older than Leo.
And what were your parents' names?
My mother's name was Bronisława Malinowska for a female. And my father was Konstantin Prusinski.
You said your mom's name is Bernice, right?
Bernice, yes.
When and where were they born?
They were born in Poland, but it was under the rule of the Russians. And that part of the country still is in Russia.
And when did they die?
Oh, let's see. My father died first. He died about 1960, I'd say. My mother died about 1962.
Did you know, what were your parents' occupations?
My mother was just a houseworker. And my dad originally was a coal miner. And when we come to Gary, he worked in the steel mills.
Did you know your grandparents?
No.
Did they tell you anything about them?
No.
No. What can you tell me about your family farther back than your grandparents?
Yeah.
Oh, they were serfs, slaves. Just like in this country, the blacks, they were slaves. And when you go back to Europe, say you go up to from the late 1700s to the middle 1800s, most of them worked for a rich man. And they were serfs.
What is your ethnic origin and how has it affected your life?
Ethnic origin. Polish, from Polish parents. I don't know if it's affected my life.
Are you guys watching your tape?
We're doing the tape.
No. Sorry.
Is there anything else you can share with me about your family history? Any unusual events or famous person?
Well, we don't know famous people in my line, but we have a little joke in our family. We had well, he'd be my uncle. He served 25 years in the Russian army, and I guess he's quite a little hero there, and so he was brought in front of Tsar Nicholas and with a bunch of other guys who were going to be awarded medals or such. And the Tsar asked him, "Is there anything I can do for you, my good man?" And my dumb uncle says, "No, my Tsar. To serve you has been reward enough." So when he got home, the he got on him because you could ask for about 25 acres of farmland, you know, because they had very little farmland. So that's a big joke.
He blew his big shot.
Yeah, he had a chance and he blew it.
Now about your childhood. I'd like you to think back to the earliest thing you can remember.
Well, I remember in about 1918 sometime, my folks and the people who were living with us, they were entertaining a fellow got back from the army. They called him Soldier, that was Soldier. So he just got back from the Second World War. So I was a little over 3 years old when this party, they had this party for him.
What else do you remember about the time before you went to school?
Well, a friend of mine and I, we crawled under the school, under the second grade room there, and we got a stick and we kept pounding on the floor to scare the kids inside. That's what it is.
Do you remember who that was that you were into the school with?
Oh yeah, we used to call him Butch. Butchie. He's a good friend of ours. In fact, he came, when he was grown, he came out to Indiana to visit us.
So you kept in touch with him for a long time?
Yeah.
Let's see. Where did you live when you were little, and what did your house look like?
When do you mean, when did I live?
Where?
When I was a little kid?
Uh-huh.
Oh, that was West Liberty, Pennsylvania. It's a coal mining town.
And your house, you said, was like a duplex?
Well, this house was a duplex there. It was rented by the coal mine to the workers.
And who did you share that with?
We shared it with who were they? Misheviches. And plus my dad and my mother and let's see, Carl, John, and me, the three of them.
We're taking your upstairs. Thanks. Did you go to school before elementary school, like in preschool?
No, we didn't have anything before elementary.
And where did you go to elementary school?
In West Liberty.
And what year did you start?
What year did I start? About 1921.
Okay. I'd like you to think back to an incident in grade school that you remember well.
Remember what?
Well.
In grade school?
Uh-huh. Something that happened to you in grade school?
Oh. Well, see, at that time, we spoke two languages, Polish at home mostly, and out in the street we speak English. And there's a kid, he's blown his nose, and I didn't know how you call a booger, so the teacher asked me why I was disturbing the class, and I said, Brunik is blowing smarky. And she didn't know what the heck that meant, so she made me get out in the hall and sit up in the dunce's chair.
How were your grades while you were in school?
Very good grades.
And how did you spend your summers during grade school?
Well, most of the time I had to watch a couple, 3 cows. We'd just watch them while they're grazing so they wouldn't get on the railroad tracks or on the roads where a car could run them over. We'd start 6 in the morning, come home about 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
And these were your cows?
No, one was our cow and the rest would be neighbors. And they used to pay me 25 cents a month to watch the cow.
That is unbelievable. 25 cents a month.
That was big money.
Was it?
Oh, yeah.
You were making a good living, huh?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Did you have any pets when you were little?
And pets, no. We had a dog, but people then kept dogs for watchdogs. They kept them chained up, so they weren't pets. We played with them, but I mean...
They were really...
Yeah, they were raised to be a watchdog, yeah.
While you were growing up, did you have any sense of whether your family... Hey! Michael, go upstairs, please. We're taping. Thank you. Did you have any sense of whether your family was rich or poor, and what would you say now about your family's economic
Well, I knew we were poor, because in fact, when I was real little, I complained to my mother. I said, how come God gives the poor people the most kids? I said, rich people, they don't have too many kids. And we had, well, how many kids did we have there? 1, 2, 3. We had about 6 then. So I figured God was shortchanging us poor people. And my mother just swooshed me.
Were you happy as a kid?
Oh yeah, we enjoyed life.
And how was your relationship with your parents?
Good. My mother was a good mother. I mean, and my father, he brought home the bacon, and he made toys for us and stuff like that, homemade toys. He couldn't buy like a sled, but if we'd bring a busted sled or something, or a bike, he would fix it and make it run. So he was a good father.
Okay, high school. Where and in what years did you go to high school?
Oh, for about 29. Well, I finished at 34 because I stayed off a half a year my senior year. Oh, the funny thing, when I went back the second semester in my senior year, I only had one pair of good pants. It was a depression then, and here I wanted to iron them real nice, and I left the imprint of the iron on the right-hand pocket.
You ruined your only pair?
The only pair we had. Yeah. Only good pair. The others had patches, and you couldn't go to school with patch pants.
And you were living in Hobart then?
Hobart, yes.
Can you think back to an incident in high school which you remember well?
Well, the only thing that I enjoyed track, and the coach tried to make a miler out of me, but I didn't have the steam and vigor to be a miler, so at home my brother cut down a little oak tree and made about a 9-foot, 10-foot oak vaulting pole, so we practiced pole vaulting there, and so I got pretty good at it. So in school when we'd have meets, I'd sneak into the pole vault, and they had bamboo poles there, and they were much lighter, and ended up I got some good places, you know, I won some events, and so the coach watched me pole vault, high jump, and I didn't have any style. He just shook his hand. He said, go ahead, do what you're doing. So I did better at pole vaulting and high jumping than I did at the mile run.
Let's see. And your grades were good in high school?
Grades were very good.
And you graduated?
Yeah.
What kinds of kids did you hang around with in high school?
Just the neighbor kids.
Whoever was around you?
Yeah.
Lived around you?
Because we lived about 3 miles away from where I went to high school. It was the city. We lived out out in the suburbs. So we associated with the neighbor kids.
And who were your best friends?
Well, I had one, Frank Florick. He lived up, well, in fact, from my neighborhood, he's the only kid that went to high school. The other kids would drop out at 8th grade, and they wouldn't continue on.
Go to work? They would go to work?
They'd go to work. At 14, they'd start working.
And did most of them go to mills?
No, they couldn't get in a mill then. They had to work in grocery stores and stuff like that. Get odd jobs.
We talked about the track team. Was that your favorite sport then, the pole vaulting?
Yeah. Pole vaulting and high jumping.
Who was the first girl you ever seriously kissed?
A girl by the name of Barbara.
How old were you?
I was about 19.
And where were you?
At a picnic. These picnics, they used to have dances and that, so.
It's a neighborhood kind of thing?
Yeah. Because before that, I was in a, you couldn't get work, so we were in CC camps. Civilian Conservation Corps. That was a government program. they'd keep us in camps. At our station in Chester, and we had about 250 young fellows there. And we did work on the dunes and in the woods there. It kept us off the street. We got $5 spending money, and they sent $25 home. So they kept us out of trouble.
Did you go to the prom?
No.
If you could have changed one thing about your high school years, what would it have been?
I guess there's nothing I could really change. I did want to get in the band, and my father wouldn't allow me to get in the band because he figured it'd be too expensive and he couldn't afford to pay for my instrument, even though the band instructor was willing to let me have a horn.
So is that the cornet that you wanted to play?
Yeah, trumpet.
Did your family go on vacation?
One vacation. The only time I remember about 1928, my father bought a 28 Olds, and they decided to go back to Pennsylvania and visit their old friends. So my father and mother and let's see, and my two oldest brothers, Carl and John, they went out there. And the small kids, we stayed home. Someone was overseeing us. I don't remember who.
How would you sum up your childhood and adolescence?
I enjoyed it. We were poor, but we had a lot of fun. It's probably better than the kids nowadays. They have so much now they don't know what to do with themselves. We were innovative. We made up our own fun.
How do you think the Depression affected your family?
Well, we were poor. My dad at first was getting one day every week, so there'd be a 2-day payday, and that'd be $15 every 2 weeks. So we lived on that. It was pretty hard. We got by a lot of people. They went on relief. They used to get township aid, but my father wouldn't go as long as he made that much. And then this I never told you before. The Silver Cup Bakery used to send a truck out with old bread, old rolls, you know, and they used to sell 25 cents a sack full, you know, potato sack full.
Oh my gosh.
So we used to get 50 cents worth of bread and rolls, you know. So that was really something.
Okay, let's get back to your education. Did you attend any college or vocational school?
No.
Were you in the military?
No.
Let's see. How old were you and what were you doing during World War II?
Well, let's see. When I registered in 41, I was 26 years old. And in 45, I was classified 1A. And I was called before the draft board, and they gave me 2 weeks to dispose of my grocery business. And when 2 weeks came, I went up there, and the fellow at the draft board asked me, "What would you rather do, stay home or go to the army?" Well, I figured maybe this is a trick question, but I'll be honest. I said I'd rather stay home. He said, "Let's make it that." And so I stayed home because Germany surrendered. It was VE Day then, what they call that. VE Day, yeah. Victory in Europe. And so I didn't have to go.
Did World War II have any impact on your life?
Not too much. Life went on. We worked. And we just waited to see if we're going to get drafted.
Let's see. When did you leave home and under what circumstances?
Let's see. December 39, I think.
And why did you leave home?
Well, left home to set up housekeeping. We were married. My wife was living with her parents, and I was living at home. We decided to set up housekeeping. So in December we start housekeeping.
And where'd you move from?
The 2nd and Tyler Street.
That's Gary?
Gary.
And where else have you lived?
Well, on 17th and Broadway in Gary. Then we moved to Camp 133, which is now Lake Station. Then from there, we sold that store, and we had a fire first, and I moved just across the street from there for about 2-3 months. And then when I sold the store, I moved down the block there in a cottage, and later on I built a house on, where the heck was that, 29th and Oklahoma Street. And from there, we bought my brother's home on, what was that, Park Avenue, 29th and Park Avenue, which is Lake Station now. And from there we moved to Hebron. And we've been there ever since.
What was your favorite house?
The one on Park Avenue, I think. We had a lot of family doings there. The kids are growing up there, so we had a lot of good times there.
What was your first job after you left home?
First home. I worked in the mill. I worked in the mill. I was a stock unloader in the U.S. Steel.
Did you like doing it?
No, it was hard work, dirty work.
So what did you do next then?
What?
What did you do after that then?
Then I went into grocery business.
Buying your own store?
Yeah.
Just you and Grandma?
Yeah.
Didn't you own a store with your brother?
What?
Didn't you own a store with your brother? Or was that
Oh,
years
later on, and when I sold that first store, I moved to 20th in Delaware and got in business with my brother Leo. We stayed there for about 7 years. Then I moved on to another brother, 15th McKinley, stayed there about another 10 years. And from there I went back to the store on 20th in Delaware for a year. Then I moved to Hebron. I was there about 11 years.
Did you like owning the stores?
It wasn't so much I liked it, I know I could make a good living at it. That's the only thing I liked about it.
How was it working with your wife? I always wanted to ask you that.
It's okay.
Working together and being married to the person you're working with.
We both realized that we have to do this to make a good living.
Yeah. You didn't get like too much of each other?
Oh, no. Because she used to go home earlier. Like we got a clerk to come in and she'd leave maybe 12. And then the kids would come from school and they'd relieve me at 3 o'clock. So then we had a pretty good life otherwise.
Let's see. What about your career have you found most satisfying?
The income.
The money? The money was good?
Yeah.
And what would you have liked to have done differently in your career?
Oh, I always dreamt of being a doctor, but it was just so impossible in my day to go to college.
Are you now, or have you ever been prominent, famous, or well known for anything?
No. Oh dear.
The last time you voted in a presidential election, who did you vote for and why?
Clinton.
And
Did you hear me, Clinton?
Yeah.
I thought it was time for a change. I didn't think the Republicans had the interests of the working people at heart, so after voting, say, at 32 and 36 for Franklin Roosevelt, I voted Republican all the way through, and then I figured, well, they're not doing a good job, so it's time to change, so I voted for Clinton.
And are politics important to you?
No. In fact, this time I didn't vote at all.
You didn't?
No. Not interested.
Actually, I didn't either. I'm disillusioned. What was Grandma's full name? Your wife?
Bronislava Malinowska.
No, my grandma, your wife.
Oh. Frances Zopia Guzik.
And when, where, and how did you meet her?
At a P&A picnic in Glen Park.
What's P&A?
They'd have dances there, so youngsters hung around her and they either danced or flirted, you know.
But you were flirting with somebody else.
Yeah.
And what did you do on your first date?
We went to Calumet City, and that was like a miniature Las Vegas. They had a 3 or 4 block strip there, and they had nightclubs. On one side they had what you'd call these country western nightclubs, and the other side you had the regular ones. So we used to go from nightclub to nightclub.
What was your courtship like?
The what?
Your courtship, your dating?
We went horseback riding, things like that. We went to shows. And let's see, that's about it. Movies, and that was about the size of it.
How long after you met did you get married?
Within a year.
What would you say is the most important thing about choosing a spouse?
You have to choose someone that you love, that you can love and stay with, the personality that suits you. You have to be compatible. If you're not compatible, it's pretty hard to work it out.
And in what ways was marriage different than you expected it to be?
I didn't think I was ready to settle down.
So you knew what it was going to be like?
No. Just judging by the way my folks lived, I said, they had a decent life. So it's more or less what I expected.
When were your children?
Let's see. Barbara in July 5th, 1939. Jane, January 8th, 1942. And Marcia, January 18th, 1945. Francine, November 10th, 1947. And Scott and Susan, November 10th, 1939, 59.
And thinking back on the day that Auntie Barbara was born, what was that like for you?
Well, it was just hard to believe. I'd say walk in and look in her bassinet, and I just couldn't believe that I was responsible for this. It was just like a miracle. That's about it.
And do you have any special memories about raising your children?
It's been good times. Kids are good kids. We had a lot of fun together, a lot of nice vacations together.
What do you think is the best thing about kids and the most frustrating thing?
Well, you just have to take it as it comes. Good with the bad. Just hope for the best.
And what was it like to be a grandparent?
Oh, that's the easiest part when you're a grandparent, because you have them for the fun times, and then when you're tired, you go home.
You're coasting through
Yeah,
there.
but then we do a lot of babysitting as grandparents, and we always enjoy that.
Okay, I wanted to talk about your interests. Do you enjoy traveling?
Yeah.
And where have you gone?
Well, we went out to California, let's see, about 64, 65, 67, and 83, 84, and 89. I drove out there 4 times, and we flew out twice. I enjoyed the driving when I was younger. We used to stop at Grand Canyon, Painted Desert, all the sights on the way. Trees of Mystery, you remember that. Klamath.
What would you say has been your greatest adventure so far?
Adventure? Kelly, I haven't had any adventures.
Your trips to California were adventurous?
It's enjoyable. If it's good an adventure, I enjoyed it.
What are your interests and hobbies, and what do you do for fun?
I read a lot, and then my crossword puzzle. I like to read.
What do you enjoy reading? What kind of books?
Historical books, namely about Indians. I like to read all about our native people here.
Do you belong to any organization?
No.
Okay. I'd like you to take stock for a moment. As of this point in time, has your life turned out as you imagined that it would?
I don't see how it could have been any different under the circumstances. Take what came my way.
What has been your greatest accomplishment so far?
Raising a good family, I think. My wife and I, we enjoyed the family, and I think our children respected us and loved us, so it was mutual.
And what has been your greatest disappointment or frustration?
I don't remember any big frustrations, to tell you the truth.
So you've been pretty content with the way your
Yeah.
life is going. What is the most important thing in your life right now?
Staying healthy. Being mobile.
What would you have done differently? What would you have done differently in your life if you knew then what you knew now? What you know now?
I think I'd stay on the same track. Because under the circumstance, I don't see how I could change it much.
You're recording a movie, now that's enough. That's enough, no more. You're trying to make a movie, you can't make it too much.
What are your goals right now? What do you hope to accomplish next?
Make it the next day.
Wake up tomorrow.
Wake up tomorrow.
If you could do anything you wanted to do, what would you do?
What do you mean now? I'm doing what I want to do. Just take one day at a time.
What do you think will be the major world events during the next 10 years?
I don't know. It's beyond me. It seems like the world's fairly well settled, yet it's not, so I don't know. I'll leave that to the young people.
And what are the most important things you have learned about life so far?
Have a good family. Have a good family life. Enjoy your family. And to me, that's the thing. We don't neighbor anymore like we used to years ago. I said, now, since TV come in there, people don't neighbor like we did a long time ago. We used to sit out and have our coffee in our backyards and all, but now you don't see your neighbors. They're, when you get home from work, they're inside watching TV. Different life.
So it changed the way neighborhoods interacted?
You don't neighbor anymore. You're not, no interaction anymore.
And what role does religion play in your life?
I think it's important. You bring your children up in religion, they learn to respect other people, and other people respect you, so I think it's very important. I don't believe in being fanatical about it, but there's a lot of good things to being taught by religion.
Can you give me some examples of right and wrong?
Well, the golden rule. Do unto others like you to have others do unto you.
So just be good to each other. Okay, we're nearing the end of the interview. The next part is about advice you have for the future generations of our family. First, what advice do you have for your great-grandchildren in the area of getting an education?
I think pretty hard on it. I said, don't just go to college. I said, have good goals, something that's, learn skills that can be used. That's the main thing. Not just go to college. You have to learn skills that you can make a living with.
To be practical about when
Yeah.
you're choosing.
Yeah.
How about choosing and managing their careers?
They're going to have to look for help. They can't think about everything themselves. Go to people who can help them. Get guidance.
How about advice you have about money?
Well, you have to try to save a little. Don't try to hoard it or anything like that. Don't be too free with it. Use it sensibly.
Okay, the rest is already on the other tape.
That's the end of it?
The other questions are on the other tape, so we can quit there.
Well, you hope.
Yeah.
You know how to close that now?
No, I don't. Add or say to complete things.
Well, I've always enjoyed all our family doings, and I hope that all the children have, and I think they have. So I hope they continue this after I'm gone. That's all.
We're done. The advice you have for future generations of our family about love and marriage.
What did I say?
You said respect each other.
Yeah.
No messing
Be
around.
faithful. Yeah, no messing around. And that's where your marriage will last. Is if you have respect for one another. And figure it's forever, and not for 5 years or 10 years. I mean, you made a commitment for life.
Okay. Probably all of the future generations of our family will watch this tape. Since you have the opportunity right now, what personal message would you like to give to them?
Well, they're all going to think they don't need my advice. They're smarter than me. So.
But if you have, what advice would you give them? Or what personal message would you give them?
Remember that you're family. I mean, all of you, and get along and get together. To me, that's always been important. A family, the family values.
That's a good message. Okay, we're at the end of the interview. Is there anything you would like to add or say to complete things?
Well, I've always enjoyed all our family doings, and I hope that all the children have, and I think they have. So I hope they continue this after I'm gone. That's all.
We're done. Thanks, Grandpa.
Yeah.